Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today we're going to be looking at the 2018 governor map and the best case scenario for the Democrats in terms of the gubernatorial elections. So I know I did a Senate video and I've done multiple Senate videos where it's the best case scenario for either the Republicans or the Democrats. Today I'm going to be doing the best case scenario for the Democrats and then going to be doing one for the Republicans and possibly have a 2020 prediction out. So when we look at this map, we currently have 16 Democrats, 33 Republicans, and 1 independent. So this is the current control based off governorships. A couple of these are not up for election. Some with Democratic governors, not senators, actually. States like Louisiana or North Carolina or Montana, those 3 states are not up, along with Virginia, New Jersey, Delaware. So there's about an equal play for the Republicans and the Democrats. Considering the Senate map is a lot more lopsided towards the Republicans, this map is a little bit more lenient towards the Democrats, mainly because states like North Carolina, Louisiana, and Montana, which are traditionally Republican states, are not up for re-election, which means those are safe Democratic seats. And in terms of the GOP, they have GOP incumbents in states like Massachusetts or Vermont, New Hampshire, or Maryland, 4 states that went for Hillary Clinton back in 2016. There are a couple other ones, states like Nevada, and a couple of other states like Illinois and Maine. So we currently have 7 Democrats, 7 Republicans, again, an even playing field. So we're going to start off, since this is the best case scenario for the Democrats, we'll start off with the states that could be rated as safe for them at this point in time. States like New York, Cali, and Hawaii. I would say Oregon at this point, because even though she is leading by 2% and then tying and then leading the Republican leading by 1, that Republican poll, I really do not want to factor that in when we look at this, because it said that Oregon had a 44% approval rating for the president when it's still in the mid-30s. And I don't trust that poll compared to the other ones, which means it could be lopsided 10% in favor against the Democrats, which means that they would be winning by 9% if we factor all that in. But we're not going to get too fancy with that. Oregon, I would still rate as a safe state for the Democrats. That pretty much wraps up all the states that we can characterize as safe for the Democrats for the time being. There are a number of races that are going to be characterized as, either leaning, likely, or even tilting towards the Democratic or the Republican Party. So that's something to watch out for. We can go into some likely states. States like Minnesota would now become likely in this scenario. Illinois as well, I would see becoming a likely state. Before we keep going through this, I actually want to go into the safe states for the GOP. So Wyoming would be one of those safe states. South Dakota, I want to come back to Nebraska. That one becomes a safe state. Kansas, not so much. Oklahoma, not so much. Texas. In a regular prediction, I'm actually going to characterize this race as safe for the GOP, but in the Democrats' best case scenario, I am not going to. This entire half of the United States over, including Hawaii and Alaska, I cannot make any characterizations in. But Arkansas puts a closer race. Alabama, we don't really see a possibility of the Democrat winning. I saw a comment this morning saying that the Democrat has a shot at this point, but still, I just said Arizona. I meant to say Alabama. Alabama is still one of those key conservative strongholds, and Alabama's probably not getting closer in 2018. And speaking of states like that, I was actually going to rate Idaho and Alabama as likely states because I invested a little bit more time into the races, and they are still Republican races. I'm not saying these races are even coming close to flipping, but the Democratic candidates aren't too bad compared to where they could be. And it just goes to show that the Democrats are fielding good candidates in almost every one of these races. They have one in Kansas. They have one in Alaska, which has a former Democratic senator running who lost his re-election bid in 2014 by a very narrow margin, even in a Republican wave year in a state like Alaska. We have a couple of other strong candidates, especially in the Senate races, especially with those incumbents, or into states like Tennessee or Texas or Arizona or Nevada. We have a lot of strong Democrats. So that's a plus for the Democratic Party. But still, Alabama goes safe into the Republican column, along with South Carolina. That race, actually, we will come back to. I do not want to characterize that one as safe for right now. We will come back to it. Tennessee, I am not going to characterize as safe for right now, but Massachusetts, even with this whole best case scenario for the Democrats, it's still a landslide win for Charlie Baker. Vermont is included along with that. Vermont goes, I guess, in a landslide for Phil Scott, which puts our map here. And looking at the current map now, currently have 14 Republicans and 13 Democrats. Now we can start filling in the likely states for the GOP and then the likely states for the Democratic Party. So South Dakota becomes a likely state for the GOP, along with Tennessee and South Carolina. They are still likely states in the best case scenario for the GOP, along with Oklahoma, actually. The best case scenario for the Democrats. I'm sorry, scratch that. For the Democrats, mainly because these races definitely could get closer, but I'm going to characterize them as likely right now for the GOP, along with Texas. I failed to characterize that one. Texas becomes a likely state right now with 19 Republicans and 13 Democrats. So this is what the map looks like right now. And now we can start filling in the likely states for the Democrats. That includes Colorado and New Mexico, which is the first flip. Actually, Illinois was the first flip, but New Mexico is the second flip now. And let's see if we can find any more. Pennsylvania would become a likely state for the Democrats. Michigan, probably, considering the two candidates have now been in the primary, and we saw primary turnout and a couple of other factors that benefit Michigan Democrats. Let's see if that's pretty much it. Rhode Island would become a likely state, and now probably, actually no, Connecticut would still be either leaning for whichever political party that it goes to. And looking at this map, we have 18 Democrats and 19 Republicans. There's a lot more blue in that map compared to where it was before, so that means it's still a lot different, but we have 18 Democrats, 19 Republicans. Where can the Democrats win? And where can the Republicans win, even in the best case scenario for the Democrats? Well, when it comes down to it, Kansas will still likely be a leaning Republican state. Even with this hotly contested GOP primary, we have an independent and a Democrat running. Even if the Democrat is able to run up the numbers and possibly come close to winning, that independent will be taking a number of voters away from the Democrats. But let's say the independent does extremely well. There's probably not a scenario where the Democrat or the independent comes out on top, especially with that much vote splitting occurring in a state like this. New Hampshire would become a leaning GOP state in the best case scenario for the Democrats. Looking at this map, Iowa we'll come back to. Pretty much the rest of these states. Georgia we can also come back to. But this puts the Republicans at 21 governorships and the Democrats at 18. So now we're going to go into the leaning blue states. That includes my home state of Maryland. Maryland goes to Ben Jealous, not in the tilt column, because I will be using the tilt column to characterize a couple of these races. Maryland goes into the leaning Democratic column, along with Ohio, where Richard Cordray has a possibility of winning. Ohio, in the best case scenario, could narrowly go, leaning, I guess, that is still narrow for the Democrats, but it's even narrower if I do use the tilt feature. Maine goes narrowly to the Democrats, along with Connecticut. These two states now go into the leaning column for the Democrats, and looking at this map, we have 22 Democrats and 21 Republicans. Now we have a couple of states to characterize at this point. Actually, Nevada and Wisconsin can now be put in the leaning Democratic column just for right now, because Wisconsin shows a new poll with the Democrat ahead by double digits, and in Nevada a couple new polls show the Republican ahead, but only by 1 to 2 percentage points, which means that in the Democrats, if they're sweeping across the country in a wave, Nevada could likely flip, and not by less than 1%. So Nevada goes into the leaning Democratic column. Alaska, I could see tilting in the favor of the Democrats. So hear me out. We have an independent, we have a Republican, and we have a a Democrat who's a part of the major political establishment, but I guess would be characterized as a third party in this type of scenario. Alaska goes to the Democrats very narrowly because the former senator somehow was able to overcome the independent and the Republican. Seems a little crazy considering that Kansas is in the Republican column, but Alaska is not the same territory. This senator narrowly lost his re-election bid in 2014 in a Republican wave year. This Republican should have won by double digits in this state itself, like Arkansas flipped by considerable amounts, okay? When it was a Republican wave year, ousted its incumbent Democratic senator. Alaska did not do the same. Sure, it was a GOP pickup, but it was not by the margin that it should have been. Alaska has a possibility of going blue if this Democratic candidate is able to do very well. In Florida, that one could still tilt in the favor of the Democrats. I'm actually going to put this one in the leaning column because I think the margin could be larger than a tilt in their best case scenario. But Georgia, we're gonna, Georgia, we can narrowly characterize along with Iowa and Arizona in the tilt Democratic column. Iowa is probably still going Republican, in this year, because right now the Democrats aren't doing the absolute best that they could be, because they could be capitalizing on a number of things that would definitely help them. They're not doing that. Iowa does have a narrow chance of going blue if this is the best the Democrats can do, along with Arizona and Georgia, just based off turnout and a whole number of other factors. So the Democrats have 29 governorships. That's a lot more than they used to have at 16. You can see the change in the map. A lot of red, a sea of red, and now a lot more blue. So that pretty much finishes off our prediction. 29 Democrats, 21 Republicans. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all tomorrow.